we should try to find some and reconnect to the spirituality.
Anesthesia has nothing to do with consciousness. There is consciousness even where there is no body. You have the necessary instrument to experience this. This will become an access point.
The scientific knowledge and the technology and modern medicine has really incredibly improved our quality of life and our life expectancy. But at the same time, I think we should try to find some and reconnect to the spirituality or the pure experience, as you say. Would you agree with that? That it's this kind of balance?
See, it is like this, if you take a motorcycle mechanic, he's very good with the motorcycles, let's say. But now you ask him to fix a computer, well, he can use his screwdriver and open the cover. Beyond that, he doesn't know a thing about it, all right? This is just like this. Objective sciences are like this. It is always 1 + 1 is 2. That's the only way objectivity can work. You cannot say 1 + 1 is 11 also, forget about a million, all right? You cannot say that because this is the nature of objectivity. And our objectivity is coming from our intellectual process. Intellectual process is coming from memory. So memory cannot be fudged. If you fudge the memory, it's a mess. I remember this is 1 and this is 1. And now I put these two things together and say this is 2. Now this has a memory basis. If I fudge this, then my intellect becomes useless, all right? So intellect is handling one aspect of our life, which essentially we call it as self-preservation. For our self-preservation, our intellect is vital, without it we cannot function. Right now, all the things that you said, it has improved our life expectancy, it enhanced our life in so many ways. No, it has not enhanced the quality of our life at all. It has only enhanced the comfort and convenience levels in the world and definitely life expectancy. All this is definitely self-preservation, isn't it? It's survival process. So when it comes to self-preservation, our intellect is vital. Without this one functioning, you cannot survive in this world. All the 5 senses are functioning, they are feeding the data into your intellect and from there you're using it. How efficiently you use it will determine how efficiently you survive. So your life expectancy enhanced means your efficiency of survival has increased, that's all it is. So you are more healthy than what people were in the past, I don't think so, but suppose we are, it simply means your survival process is little more efficient. So, leaving the survival process, now you're talking about consciousness. Consciousness means, see the English word consciousness is very loosely used. If you say somebody is in anesthesia, if they come back, you say, oh, he's come back to his consciousness. See, everything that you do with your anesthesia has nothing to do with consciousness. It has something to do with body and various functions of the body. You're shutting down certain aspects of the bodily functions. One of them is transmission of pain, which is the main interest when somebody is going to surgery. You don't want to stop their heart, you don't want to stop their brain, you would like to see the transmission of pain stops. Whatever is being cut, whatever damage or fixing is happening, whatever parts of the body may be being removed, what is not vital may be being pulled out, all that is happening. Only transmission of pain is not happening. This has got nothing to do with losing consciousness and gaining consciousness, there's no such thing. Because there are no alternate words, we use the same words. Language is a different aspect, language is also a product of our intellect. So it can only talk in opposites. Without polarities, there is no language. Without polarities, your intellect cannot function. But when you talk about consciousness, you are not talking about two polarities. There's no A consciousness and B consciousness. There's no positive consciousness and negative consciousness, there's just one. As we sit here, this is my body, that is your body. Distinctly established. Right now, it is 100% like this. I don't know what you're drinking, I can't see, but whatever you're drinking, what's in the cup is not you. The moment you drink it, after some time it becomes you. This is happening right now. So, though what you think is your body and what I think is my body is just a piece of this planet, right now it is distinctly clear, this is my body, that is your body, 100%. This is my mind and that is your mind, these are my emotions and those are your emotions, these are my experiences, those are your experiences. But there is no such thing as my consciousness and your consciousness. This is a living consciousness. We blew our own bubble. I'm sure you have that little wonderful boy who came on the screen, I'm sure he's blowing soap bubbles at you sometime. So, if you blow a soap bubble, this is my bubble, that's your bubble. Oop, it went. Then there is no such thing as my bubble and your bubble, there is no such thing as my air and your air. Consciousness is just like this. Right now you have blown your bubble, I have blown my bubble. This is me, that is you. But when this goes poop, there is no such thing as my consciousness and your consciousness. It is just that it is only the human creature on this planet who has the neurological capability and sophistication of mechanism that if they allow it, they can access this dimension of consciousness. No other creature is really capable of accessing it. This doesn't mean there is no consciousness in them. Without that, the life process wouldn't happen. There is consciousness even where there is no body, all right? Only thing is, you need a certain sophisticated instrument to access that, which is the human mechanism. This is why we consider being human is a great privilege, because you have access to dimensions beyond your physical boundaries. That is the fundamental significance of being human. So, let us not misunderstand the instrument and what we see. If you take a telescope and see, you saw another galaxy, but the galaxy is not produced by the telescope. The galaxy is there. The telescope only gave you an access. Similarly, your body, your brain, whatever, I don't want to identify different things, from your hair to your toes, everything is body as far as I'm concerned, including your brain. It is just another dimension of the body. So this body, if we keep it in a certain way, if we do not contaminate it with too many ideas, philosophies, identities, if you keep it in a certain level of openness, this will become an access point to what we are referring to as consciousness or the basis of the life that we are. You have the necessary instruments to experience it, not the instruments in your lab. You as a person, you have the necessary instrument to experience this. Will you allow it or not, is the only question. As I said in the beginning, it all depends on how you're identified. If your identifications are limited, you have lost the ability to experience it. If your identity is, not identified with anything, you kept yourself loose like that, then there is a possibility of experiencing it. I like to say that for thousands of years, for the longest period, compared to anything on this planet, this wisdom, this dimension of knowing has lived on without any kind of true organization or a certain kind of leadership or any other kind of organized support. Out of sheer efficacy of what it is, it's just lived on. Time has come in the world where even truth has to be protected. When we talk about age, we are not talking about a particular geography. This must be clearly understood. We are not talking about East and West as geographical features in the world. Any number of great minds in America have said things of great reverence and admiration for the so-called Eastern wisdom. Thoreau, one of the greatest minds America produced, went out to say, "Every morning I bathe my intellect in this stupendous and cosmogonal knowledge from the East. In comparison, all our modern world and literature is puny and tribal." I think Mark Twain went out to… probably gave out the best compliment to the East. When he visited India for a little over 3 months, he said, anything that can ever be done, either by man or God, has been done in this land. Any number of others, Oppenheimer, Walden, Emerson, any number of people have said many things. Why? Why is it important? Why is it important to preserve and nurture this dimension of life? The fundamental reason why it seems to be so significantly different is because it is not a product of human intellect. It is not deductions that we made out of our intellect. This dimension comes from a profound inner experience where there is no right and wrong, there is no up and down, just seeing things the way they are. And when we say dharma, we are not talking about a religion as modern translators went about interpreting dharma as Hindu dharma or whatever, another religion. Because they came from a mindset that everybody has to belong to some segment of humanity. They come from a mindset where humanity has to be divided one way or the other. Because they come from the surface intelligence of human nature, which we call as intellect. Unfortunately, the modern societies, modern education systems have entirely dedicated themselves to the human intellect, completely ignoring other dimensions of intelligence which definitely exist within us. When you go by the intellect, the nature of the intellect is always to dissect and divide, because intellect is essentially discriminatory in nature. And intellect functions always with a certain identity. If you have no identity, you cannot use your intellect. So with individual identities, either of race, religion, nationality, caste, creed, gender, when you apply your intellect, it'll split the world into many pieces. So the significance of what we are referring to as the spirit of Eastern wisdom is, it does not come from human intellect. It comes from a deeper dimension of intelligence within us. When I say a deeper dimension of intelligence, a simplistic way of looking at it would be, whatever you had for lunch today, if you had a piece of bread, over the afternoon, this bread is being transformed into a human being. You definitely cannot do that with your intellect. There's an intelligence here which is capable of making a banana into a human. You definitely cannot do that with your intellect. A dimension of intelligence which is beyond thought process. Thought or the product of intellect is essentially always functioning from a limited amount of data that we have gathered. Now, what we call as Eastern wisdom is not coming from a limited amount of data that we have gathered either from the books or our life experience, but simply by enhancing our ability to perceive life. in ways that the five sense organs cannot function. Why I'm talking about the five sense organs is all the data that you have ever gathered, which rests in so many aspects within you, which is the food for the intellect, comes from the five sense organs. In the very nature of things, sense organs cannot perceive the entirety of anything. If you can see this part of my hand, you cannot see this part of my hand. This is the nature of sense perception. Even if you take a grain of sand, if you see one part of it, you cannot see the other face of it. Sense organs can only perceive in comparison. If there is no comparison, your senses are useless. Because there is darkness, you know what is light. Otherwise, you just would not know what is light. If light was on all the time and there was no darkness, you would not know what is light. Because there is silence, you know what is sound. If there was no silence, you would not have the idea of what is sound. So always in comparison. It is like, let's say you're 6 feet tall. Now, you walk like a tall man, you think like a tall man, you feel like a tall man, you are a tall man. You went to another society where everybody is 8 feet tall. Suddenly you walk like a short man, think like a short man, feel like a short man, and you are a short man. So what you perceive in comparison is a distortion of reality. It is not reality as it is. So whatever we perceive in comparison is useful for our survival process. But if we want to know the nature of this existence, sense organs are not sufficient instrument. What is light for you is darkness for many other creatures. You ever got into an argument with an owl? If you did, which is light, which is darkness, where would it go? It would be endless or… Who is right, you or the owl? Oh, if you're saying both, either you belong to the diplomatic corps or you have a successful marriage. You have learned to say both, both for everything. You're right. Well, that is the basis of all the problems on the planet. I'm right and you're wrong. The fact of the matter is, you're perceiving it as it is necessary for your survival. The owl is perceiving it as it is necessary for his survival. If survival is all you're seeking, your five sense organs and intellect are sufficient instruments. But if you want to know the nature of the existence, if you want to know the fundamental laws or dharma which governs life, the way it happens within us and around us, then you need an inner perception or another dimension of intelligence within you. Otherwise, you will only cut the world into pieces. In the name of religions, we have cut the world into… humanity into many pieces because intellectually we have arrived at our own conclusions or deductions, which invariably is bound to divide because intellect is essentially a knife which cuts. It can only dissect. By dissection, you can know certain things. But if you really want to know someone that you love, you don't dissect them, you embrace them. By dissection, you may know the kidney, liver, heart stuff, but you will not know that being in any sense. You will lose it completely. So dissection is the way of the intellect because it is a sharp instrument. It has to cut open everything that's given to it. But the East found another way. Out of profoundness of experience, you can know life. By turning inward, you can know life. When I say turning inward, you must understand that essentially the five sense organs are always outward. You can see what's around you, but you cannot roll your eyeballs inward and scan yourself. You can hear this, but so much activity in this body, you cannot hear. If an ant crawls upon this hand, you can feel it. So much blood flowing, you cannot feel it. Because in the very nature of things, sense organs are outward bound. The moment you dedicate yourself to your intellect, you also get enslaved to the limitations of your five senses. It is in this context, the wisdom of the East is of tremendous significance to the world because it has transcended this slavery to sense perception and learned to perceive life in a completely different way. What is this completely different way? In English language, if you say mind, it is just one word, it is supposed to say everything. In the yogic culture, there are 16 parts to the mind, 16 dimensions of human mind. Now if I go into 16, it would take too much time, so let me compress it into four. The four aspects of the mind are called buddhi, ahankara, manas and chitta. Buddhi means the intellect. Today, modern world is largely run by the intellect. So with this, we can do many things on the outside. We can go on enhancing the comforts and conveniences of life. We've done very well in terms of comforts and conveniences. Never before, never ever before, another generation of humanity ever knew the kind of comforts and conveniences that we have today, but at the same time, we are whining like never before. Because as the comforts and convenience increase on the outside, as there is less to complain about what is happening around you, the emptiness of within echoes within you in a horrible way. When you're fighting for survival, when every day you are struggling to fix small things on the outside, you will not realize this. When outside is well settled, that is when you'll see how hollow life has become. The biggest question in the world you will see in the next few decades is, what the hell are we doing here anyway? Because everything that needs to be fixed on the outside is done, now what? 7.2 billion people on the planet. But right now, gradually it's looming large. Loneliness is one of the biggest problems. Dogs are being tortured to fulfill human loneliness. Because as you dedicate yourself more and more to your intellect, you will naturally become more and more lonely because it keeps on dissecting and cutting life into various pieces for examination, and then you will see you yourself will be split up into many parts after some time, if you go by the intellect, 100%. The next dimension of the mind is referred to as ahankara. Normally people think it means ego. No, it means identity. You're identified with something. The moment you're identified with something, your intellect will work only to protect that identity, no matter what, whichever way you think. Your ideas of which nation you belong to, which race you belong to, which culture you belong to, which religion you belong to, which gender you belong to, the moment you get identified, your intellect will work only to protect that identity. So, it is a certain kind of prejudice. Well, you may say, I'm not prejudiced, I'm very broad-minded. All right, it's a broad prejudice. Because people are willing to live and die for what they're identified with. Because the nature of the intellect is, if you take away the identity, it will not know what to do. It needs a strong identity, a strong sense of who I am. If you ask, who am I? Your intellect will not function. You must know who you are. A strong sense of belief that this is what I am. That is when your intellect will function in a certain way. This is like… intellect is like a sharp knife. Ahankara, or the identity, is the hand that holds it. All the suffering on the planet. When was the last time that somebody stabbed you? Even though you're living in LA, I'm asking. When was the last time it happened? Never happened. Maybe when you were in school, somebody poked you with a pin at the most, or even that did not happen, they ignored you. Or what I'm saying is, how much suffering for a human being is actually coming from outside? Almost nothing. Rest is all self-help. Because this is a sharp knife given to you. Unsteady hand, every day it's cutting itself. You know, we were we were trekking in Nepal and Tibet region, and I was in a tent. Someone was cutting an apple, and someone else, another person said, "It's a very sharp knife, be careful." It irritates me because such an obvious thing. You call it a knife only because it's sharp. If the damn thing is not sharp, why will I call it a knife? And if it's a child, yes. A full-grown man, you don't tell him it's a sharp knife. I ignored it and I was working on something. Another 2 minutes, again it is said, "It's a very sharp knife, be careful." I said, "Come on, leave him alone." He's a grown man, leave him alone. He's not handling some super instrument, a knife. He should know how to handle a knife. "No, no, Sadhguru, it's a very sharp knife." All right, I get back to my work. 2 minutes later, he cuts his hand. Okay. Now, the problem is just this. You've been given a sharp knife, unsteady hand, every day cutting yourself. You may call it stress, you may call it anxiety, you may call it fear, you may call it misery, you call it what you want. All that's happening is your intellect is working against you. That's all it is. Unless somebody is stabbing you from outside, that's a different issue. We need to deal with that. Rest is all your own intelligence turning against you. You may call it 1,000 no, no, my mother-in-law, my boss, my neighbor, they're not stabbing you, they're only saying what they want to say. It is you who's poking yourself because an unsteady hand, that's all. But this intellect cannot function without a memory bank. So what is called as manas is a silo of memory. There are 8 dimensions of memory. Let's not go into the detail, but you know this much. There is a conscious memory. Today they're recognizing as subconscious memory. You know there is genetic memory. You may not remember how your great-great-great-grandfather looked like, but his nose is sitting on your face. 1,000,000 years ago, how your forefathers were, even today, your body remembers. You may not remember here, but your body remembers every aspect of it. Even the color of the skin, it is remembering, not forgotten. So there is genetic memory, there is evolutionary memory. Like this, there's a profound dimension of memory in the body. There are 1,000,000,000,000 times more memory in your body than in your mind. So this is why this is called as manomaya kosha. This is an entire manas, not in one place. Intellect may be up here, but the manas spreads right through the system. Every cell in the body has a memory of its own, has an intelligence of its own. Now the 4th dimension of intelligence is called chitta. This is a dimension of intelligence which is unsullied by memory. If you touch this dimension, then the memory has no influence on you. Your genetic memory, your evolutionary memory, your conscious memories, unconscious memory, subconscious memory, whatever kinds of memories you have, it has no influence on you. Or in other words, past cannot recycle itself through you. See, right now, you take on this form because of a certain memory, it's a certain software. If you eat, let's say you're a man and you eat a piece of bread, this piece of bread turns into a man. You're a woman and you eat a piece of bread, the same piece of bread turns into a woman. You give it to your dog, it turns into your dog. Very intelligent bread. It is just the memory that you carry. Here there is a memory which transforms everything the way it is. So, this dimension of intelligence, which is called as chitta, which is untouched by any kind of memory, just pure intelligence, is of significance because it's beyond. It is beyond your species, it is beyond your form, it's beyond your gender, it's beyond your culture, it's beyond every kind of influence, which is essentially memory within you. Maybe unconscious, but it is memory playing out in so many ways. As long as memory is playing out, what it means is, in India we say you're in a state of samsara. Samsara means a lot of people today understand as family. Samsara doesn't mean family, samsara means a cyclical life. You're in cycles of life. If you're in cycles or if you're going in circles, what does it mean? That means you're not getting anywhere. That's what it means. A cycle is nice, it gives you good exercise. This is like running on a treadmill. If you're seeking exercise, it's good. But if you want to go somewhere, it's no good. If you put your treadmill out here and keep running on it, morning becomes evening, fall becomes winter, winter becomes summer, everything will happen. Seasons will change, scenery will change, everything will happen. Only thing is you don't go anywhere. This is what samsara means. As long as you're functioning within the first three dimensions of intelligence, you are in a cyclical mode. It is all right to exercise yourself, but it's not good to go somewhere. So if you want to transcend the samsara nature of who you are or the cyclical nature of your existence, then you touch the dimension of intelligence which is referred to as chitta. Why the so-called Eastern wisdom is of great significance, why the dharma of the East is so significant and important is because this comes from chitta. This does not come from buddhi, this does not come from manas, this does not come from ahankara, this comes from chitta. And only that which does not come from your individual identity or individual memory, that can be truly universal. So for this we said, this is Sanatan Dharma. This does not mean Hindu religion. This is a very wrong conception. Sanatan Dharma means the ultimate law of nature. When we say nature, there is physical nature and there is an inner nature. There are two dimensions. For this, accordingly, we made two dimensions of laws. Physical nature is a changing thing. It's always in a process of change and a flux. But the inner nature is a constant process. So we made two dimensions of expression for this dharma called Shrutis and Smritis. One is always to be updated for every generation. Otherwise, two generations will keep on bickering and clashing. You have to update it. Another is eternal, it's always there. It's nobody's business to change it because it cannot be changed because the fundamentals of life has not changed. Based on this, an entire wisdom arose as to how to exist within you and how to operate around you. This happened in 1924. There was a bishop in the Orthodox Greek religion where, there's Orthodox Greek segment of Christians. They have a pope of their own in Istanbul. They believe they are the only true Christians. Others are all riffraff. So, he served this particular segment, which is very orthodox and rigid. Being in Istanbul, being on the Silk Route, all kinds of stories of Indian mysticism kept wafting across the Bosphorus. So he has a longing to go to India and see a real yogi or a mystic. But being a man of cloth, he could not choose where to go and where not to go. After he passed 60 years of age, when he semi-retired, he got an opportunity and went to India and came to southern India. So his desire is to meet a real yogi, not a book yogi, not a studio yogi, but a real one. So somebody directed him and said, go up this hill, there in this kind of place, there will be one yogi. So he went up. Well, he's not made for the mountains, he went huffing and puffing up, and then he found in front of a small cave, a yogi was sitting, eyes closed, totally blissed out. He went there and he has been told that if you see a Indian yogi, you must prostrate. Well, he was not made for that, but he somehow managed, huffed and puffed and sat down. Hearing this commotion, the yogi opened his eyes and smiled. Immediately the bishop looked at him and said, can I ask you a question? Yogi said, by all means. The bishop asked, what is life? You should have asked this question when you were 8, at least when you're 16. 60. But what to do, better late than never. He asked. Then yogi laughed and went into raptures. Oh, life is like the fragrance of jasmine upon gentle spring breeze. The bishop looked at him and said, life is like fragrance of jasmine upon gentle spring breeze? Our teacher told us, life is like a thorn. Once it gets into you, if you sit, it hurts, if you stand, it hurts, if you lie down, it hurts. What is this fragrance of jasmine upon gentle spring breeze? So the yogi smiled and said, well, that's his life. So this comes from the fundamental that when a human being clearly, experientially understands that entire experience of human life is created from within, never from outside. Right now as you sit here, do you at least see me? Even if you're not listening to me, I'm saying. Can you use your hand and show where I am? No, you're getting it all wrong. You know, I'm a mystic from South India. Now this light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the whole story. Where do you see me right now? Within yourself. Where do you hear me right now? Within yourself. Where have you seen the entire world? Within yourself. Have you ever experienced anything outside of yourself? Right now, someone next to you, if they touch you, you think you're experiencing their hand. No. You're only experiencing the sensations in your hand. In the very nature of things, you cannot experience anything outside of yourself. When the entire experience of life is caused from within you, at least it must happen the way you want it, isn't it? The world will not happen the way you want. At least the experience of living here within you must happen the way you want it. If if your experience of life happened just the way you want, how would you keep yourself, blissful or miserable? Please, you must tell me, I'm going to bless you. Blissful or miserable? For yourself, definitely highest level of pleasantness for yourself. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but you know what you want for yourself, isn't it? Now, blissfulness or pleasantness of life is not a goal by itself. It is only when you're blissful by your own nature. That means you determine the nature of your experience. No matter what is the situation, you determine the nature of your experience, or in other words, you have no fear of suffering. Only and only when there is no fear of suffering will you walk full stride in this life. Otherwise, it's always about what will happen to me, what will happen to me. Every step is a half a step. Now, this so-called spirit of Eastern wisdom comes from those beings who walked full stride, who determine the nature of their experience.
Each of these videos is a construction, and whoever reaches the end is helping to sustain this work. If this content resonated with you, leave a comment, share it, subscribe, and of course, give it a like. Also, take a look at the links in the description. There are more paths for you to explore. Thanks a lot, big hug, and see you in the next video.